Was your relationship with your parents growing up?
Both of my parents were highly functioning alcoholics, but definitely alcoholics. That wasn't hidden from us. It was just kind of a normal part of life. I told the story to my mother-in-law once I was comfortable enough to tell her, but I started dating my husband when we were 17, and I remember one of the first times I was over at their house, we had watched a movie, and it was probably 7 o'clock, and Matt's mom was like, I really want some ice cream. I'm gonna go get Dairy Queen. Does anyone want anything? And it blew my mind that someone could get in a car and drive somewhere at 7 o'clock because they were sober. And that just wasn't my experience. During the week, my parents, they both worked full time. They'd come home. They weren't bad parents. We always had home cooked meals and they did love us. But by 6 o'clock, they were passed out drunk on the couch. And on the weekends, if you had something you needed to accomplish and it wasn't a day that we had soccer games, so they didn't have a choice but to not drink, you better get it accomplished by noon because it's game over after that. So that's something that, my brother and I kind of lived with. And I think once I got old enough to drink, I got closer with my parents just because we could kind of partake in it with them, which isn't healthy at all. But I especially got close with my mom because we had something to bond over. Our thing was going out to Mexican and getting margaritas and then going and sitting by the pool. And it was fun, but that's not a great thing to have a common bond over.
Did you have a healthy relationship with her in general? How did she teach you the principles, the values around health, around fitness, around consumption, around the way you treat food?
I honestly don't think they taught us any of that. We did, I don't remember ever really picking up fast food or going out to eat when I was younger. I'm sure we did. It doesn't stick in my head. I remember having a mom who worked full time, probably got home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and took the time to make a home cooked meal. Which I do. I respect that now that I have kids. Sometimes I'm like, how the heck did she do this? I'm running around the kitchen at 5 o'clock and my kids are screaming at me and I'm like, how? I just want to go to Chick-fil-A. So yeah, honestly, I never really had a struggle with food because I never really had a struggle with my body, and I just don't think it was really anything we talked about. I was athletic, and so naturally, I don't know, I just never really thought about health or nutrition or anything like that, honestly, until going to burn. Because it gave me a reason to want to put good things in my body so I could see results. And yeah, as far as alcohol, I remember trying to talk to them as I got older, and I think their defense mechanism was just to say, I'm the parent, you're the kid, and look at all these things you have. We had a good life. We, got to play soccer. We didn't go without anything. We got cars when we turned 16. We had everything we needed. It was just, we also had parents who drank way too much, and yeah.
What was the relationship with your dad, you and your dad growing up?
One part of their drinking is that, they would get to a certain point, of course, where they would get in fights, and my dad was abusive to my mom. So we had, a pretty complicated relationship. It honestly wasn't even complicated. I wouldn't even say we had a relationship. I was scared of him growing up. I didn't really, honestly, just kind of stayed out of his way. So we really didn't have a relationship at all until after my mom passed away. And then it was kind of all right, we're going to take you under our wing. And, we weren't just going to let him struggle with that. And he did. I think he had a lot of demons when she passed away and a lot of regrets because they were in a good place at that point. But that was really, once she was gone, those were some of the first times I had spent time with my dad alone. He would come visit us in Charlotte, and the first time he ever did, I was like, what am I going to do with you all weekend? I've never even – really had a conversation with you. So the relationship was getting repaired, and then having kids, I think, or like us having, me and my brother having children, I think kind of was, well, I know, like it was hard for him to watch. And once we had a couple of kids under our belt, like he just kind of started declining. And I think part of it was like, you know, my husband and I talk all the time about how cool it's going to be one day to like sit back and watch our kids be parents and get to have grandkids. Like you dream about that, I think, naturally as a parent. Like you just picture that stage of your life. And here he was like living that out, but his wife wasn't with him. And he ultimately died essentially from drinking himself to death. So.
And at the same time, you had some other relatives around you, as you mentioned, who passed as well. And, you know, thank you for sharing all that. And, you know, it seems like the way you speak about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you've used a lot of this tragedy for yourself and your family and your children and your husband in a positive way, in a way where you've honored your mom and your dad and focused on the things about them that you did love, and also learned from the things that you didn't love that could show you the way. Do you feel like that is the case, and that you're at a stage in your life where you're standing on a platform of forgiveness to move forward?
Yeah. I can't say that I look to them as like role models necessarily when I think about my own parenting, but we were talking about it before we started recording. Like I kind of got a blueprint of like how I didn't want to be, which in a way I am thankful for, because it does help me like map out, all right, this is the kind of parent that I do want to be, because I have that example. And I know there are people that have way worse examples than I have, I'm sure. Well, I know, but yeah, like I can look at them and kind of I had a manager back in the day who used to say like, take the meat and spit out the bones. Like that's kind of how I look at that. Like I can take the things that I loved about them and use that to, you know, model my own parenting journey and marriage.
That's a one heck of a perspective to have, you know, and I hope that you find time to be proud of yourself and your husband for, you know, going through alcoholism is not hard any way you want to cut it.
Yeah.
You could say they're functioning or not. It doesn't, you know, watching somebody out of control of their own life. That's what alcoholism is. You are imprisoned by this bottle. You have to have it in order to have life.
Yeah.
And that's the perspective, although not the reality. And then you take that and you use that, you know, for you and your family and to move forward. And life is admirable, and hopefully that you find time to find gratitude for that too. I'm cut from the same cloth, and the only way we move forward, the only way to move forward is through forgiveness.
Yeah.
And not holding any resentment or being bitter in any way. And so it's so glad to hear somebody cut from the same cloth as me to really take that perspective by choice. Mm-hmm.